Hello, everybody. My name is Jarek Bucholc and Mr. Jeff Murray. How am I pronouncing correctly?
Absolutely. Murray.
Murray. Okay.
Yes.
For my Polish English is different, so I
No
hope I'm
problem.
excused about that. Who cares about pronunciation? As long as
Nice.
we will be making money together at one point, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jeff, to whoever is listening and watching or by any media, our goal is very, very simple. We are inviting and we are talking with the most Canadian successful real estate investors. So meaning is we want to provide quality as much as possible and educate whoever is watching that presentation and endorse and work together with successful Canadian known investors. That's period, right? And
Absolutely.
our dedication is very, very simple. Jeff is one of those guys, right? I have seen his presentations. His entire team is rock and rolling in New Brunswick. However, he will be covering some topics related to the New Brunswick area. However, also can be applicable to all the provinces, and that's what we are going to discuss. So Jeff, would you mind be so nice and kind explaining and telling us a little bit about yourself? Don't sell too much, but
Sure, for sure. I am a entrepreneur out of Saint John, New Brunswick. Started Canada Homes 6 years ago. And at the time, I was just doing a little bit of investing myself, nothing too serious. I had probably maybe 6 units or so, and always enjoyed the sales aspect of the business. And filling vacancies was always kind of my forte. Never had any problems, always stayed full, especially in a market that wasn't the greatest at the time. And started to kind of talk and see how things maybe weren't doing so well, and some folks that were struggling. At the time, there's a lot of folks moving west because that's where they needed to go for work. And that's just the way it was. And so it wasn't probably the best time to start a management business, but I did, and got into doing a lot of single family homes for those folks that weren't able to sell and they were moving and their houses were sitting vacant. So did a lot of that. As I continued to grow, I started to meet some investors that were buying some multi-units and required management, and had a good handle on the business at the time. So we just continued to grow from there, and started to went to a real estate investment show in Toronto, met a decent amount of investors, got my first big break there. And it's been pretty steady since, honestly.
Yeah, I know those guys from the KMI publications. We've
That's right.
been working on a regular basis for many years. I don't want to say decades, but it's over 10 years. Wow,
Yep.
Time flies fast. We're getting younger, right? So I'm just fooling myself to find it out, that, we have to enjoy the life, right? So, and I see that you are working with quite a lot of people. How many people working with you at this moment?
We have 18 staff that are here at Canada Homes. So that's stretched across the province through Fredericton, Moncton, and in Saint John, with the bulk in Saint John.
Okay, so there is not only one location, right? Is it?
No, we have an office out of Moncton, and we also have an office in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Perfect. I didn't know that. So good to have that kind of information.
Yeah.
And you've been running different kind of businesses too, right?
I do. I still work a full-time job with my family at Saint John Springworks here in Saint John. And about probably 5 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer, I started a small trucking company called Outlaw Trucking with a friend of mine, and we still operate that today.
Wow. When do you sleep?
I get my rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been developing a system where you can sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day and then have a short nap in the middle of the day, right? So maybe can be beneficial, right?
Yeah, it's all about managing your time. If you're a good time manager, you can do a lot of things.
Okay, so Jeff, let's jump into the conversation. So
yeah.
I know that you can cover so many different topics, and I am so pleased, and I'm very glad, and proud to have you on the board and talking about evictions, right?
Yes,
so
we're good.
Why you chose that topic as a first topic to talk?
I think it's a topic that it's, as any investor, it doesn't matter what province you're in, is something that all of us at one time or another have to deal with. Some more often than others. But yet it's also one of those things that seems to really stretch across the board differently. So every province seems to have different rules and regulations as far as how exactly do you get rid of somebody when they, you no longer want them there. And our province happens to be what I believe is to be one of the easiest ones. Some may disagree, but my experience with it, it has and it continues to assist us very easily, and it's been very, very good.
Thanks God, very good. I'm very glad that you're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good too about that. However, Ontario, good luck with that.
Yeah, I do read.
So have you ever experienced those professional renters?
I've heard lots. So there's one thing about myself. I always try to stay educated into how things work elsewhere, because eventually I'd still like to, operate Canada Homes across the board. So I always try to continue to educate myself, and I read a lot of posts, and a lot of my clients that are across Canada also invest in other provinces. So, we'll share stories from time to time as far as how things go there. Ontario always seems to be one of the ones that kind of sticks out in everybody's mind, because it's just like, it's a great market, but when it comes time that you do have a problem, my God, it can really cost you a lot of money.
Ontario and Quebec, but Quebec is completely different ballgame, right? So
yes, I will tell you, I really don't know anything about the Quebec market.
I have lived in Quebec for quite 10 years, 15 years, 15. Wow. We're getting younger, right? And 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken, or 1st of July, everybody are moving.
Oh, gosh.
That is a kind of migration for everybody, right? So that's the way how I see it. So what kind of process is behind the eviction?
Honestly, it's really easy. So just to probably easier just to run through an example. So if you have a client or a tenant and it's their rent is $1,000 and they have not paid you rent and it is the 2nd of the month, you're able to serve them with a 15-day notice to vacate.
Okay.
So for example, so you would it's a form you fill out, you deliver it, you have to hand deliver it, and also you have to fax a copy to what's called the rentalsman's office, which is, or the tenancy tribunal, I guess now they're calling it, here in New Brunswick. And so after the 15th day, so on the 16th day, which if they have not paid, then you're able to apply for assistance. So when you apply for assistance, it simply means you're applying for the sheriff. So you have to pay a $75 fee for the sheriff to come.
Only?
Yep. Only $75, pretty reasonable.
Okay.
They will then contact you to make an appointment to come to the apartment, and then they're out, basically. So after the 16th day, once you apply for that assistance, typically I always usually allow for a 4 to 5 day leeway from the time you apply for the assistance. By the time they call you and then book an appointment to go there, you show up, you let them in, you change the locks, they post a notice to say that that tenant has been evicted by the sheriff, and you take over the unit at that point. They are out. So before a 20-day period, technically, you can take over your unit again. Now, that means the tenant is gone. There are some things like if they have a lot of leftover belongings, you have to apply for certain things and maybe deal with some stuff that way. But typically, definitely less than 60 days, everything can be taken care of, gone, and you may even have a new tenant in by that time. So
it's good.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good. So, it's something that, some folks get frustrated by because they don't know. So there's a lot of like investors or even local investors that typically don't like the system because everybody wants, if somebody doesn't pay them, they want them gone the next day. Wouldn't that be joyous if we could ever have that? But of course, and then people get frustrated. They don't want to be bothered taking into time to fill the paperwork out and that sort of thing. So some folks get frustrated by the system, but if you know it, you understand it, you cross your T's and dot your I's, if you will, and making sure that everything is right. It's an easy process. We deal with it monthly because you're always like, for the amount of units that we have, we're always dealing with somebody. And, some of them go smoother than others. But for the most part, that's basically it. I'm not aware of too many other provinces. I'm sure some of your listeners across the country are probably not as fortunate as we are. You can probably attest to that probably better than I could. But that has always been a big selling feature for myself when I go to like the Real Estate Wealth Forum in Toronto or a RAIN conference that I've been to some out in BC. Yes, in New Brunswick you have higher taxes, but there also is a lot of other perks that sort of offset some of those costs that you're maybe used to when you're investing in other provinces.
Okay, so yeah, you already covered maybe the average scenario, how much time does it take? But let's cover the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, right?
Sure.
Just to make sure that, and let's understand, we are talking primarily about New Brunswick, and they can differ in different provinces, right? So
absolutely. So let's take that same example. So $1,000, but let's say they pay you $500 on maybe the 10th day. Okay, you're not able to continue on with that same eviction. You have to start the process over again. Okay, so if you're going to allow that tenant, let's say that tenant calls you up and says, you know what, I got $500 right now, I can give you. Most landlords are like, yep, bring it over. But what they don't know, or maybe don't understand, is the fact that, okay, now all of a sudden you need to do an eviction for $500, not $1,000. If you follow me on that. Okay, so now all of a sudden now it's we'll say June 10th, and they've paid you $500. Now you have to serve them a new notice, a new 15-day notice for the $500. Okay. But then let's say they pay you maybe they call you back, and 2 days later they pay you $200. Okay. Now you got to do the notice all over again. Okay. For now they owe you $300. Okay. So that's how they can draw it. Okay. And that's also going off the fact that, you're on the ball and you're getting notices out on the 2nd, which doesn't always happen. For our units, we aim to usually get our notices out by the 5th to the 7th in that time frame. We always try to aim to have it all taken care of before the end of the month, because we know that that's what can happen. So, they can certainly drag it along. And as long as you're willing to allow them to, then you can, they can certainly do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should you collect and accept that partial payment, or just pursue?
It depends on the tenant. So, if you have a tenant that has been good and maybe they're just running across some hard times, I usually do. But if you have a tenant that's not paying you, plus they're causing problems, maybe they're bringing the wrong type of people around and they're really causing some issues within your building, and it's just not a good vibe, then it's probably best to maybe go your separate ways. Now, there is another option as well that I can get into if you like.
Sure, go for it, man.
Yes, yeah. So if you have somebody who has been kind of dragging along and getting, maybe it's just not getting paid ever, and you're just never getting your money, and you want to that's it, just straight out gone. And as long as you sign them to just a straight month-to-month lease, so nothing too, you're not signing them to any fixed term or anything like that, we can do a termination of lease. So on the 1st, of June. If I want them gone by the end of June, I just serve them with a termination notice. So that just terminates the lease. Done deal. See you later. Yep. And if they don't pay me, which most wouldn't because they know they're getting terminated, then you can actually double up that notice and then send a notice to vacate for non-payment. So, and trying to get them out a little bit sooner. Okay. That's for that 15 day notice. So you can, the tenant can play the game, but as long as you're confident in the rules and you don't get bullied, because tenants, will try to say, well, I'm going to the tenants or I'm going to go to the rentals man and you're going to have to do this. And know your rules. Biggest thing. Know your rules. Doesn't matter what province you're in. Know your rights, know your rules, and just make sure you're getting your paperwork done. Bang, bang, bang. And it's actually not that bad of a situation. The only time it gets, I would say the worst case scenario that I would ever deal with is either a term notice or a 15-day notice, but they're like causing problems. So they're having parties, they don't care because they're getting, they're being evicted, but they want to go out with a bang, if you will, and you're just phone call after phone call. You get tenants complaining, you get this and that. So but you're still within the 15 to 20 day mark, but it's a headache every day. So some of them bow out. They get notice to vacate, you don't hear from them, and then you show up one day and half their stuff's gone and they're gone. And then others, boy, they like to fight you every step of the way. I'm in the middle of one right now.
I'm kind of East European style guy, right? Take it or leave it. I show up at the door.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's a lot of self-confidence. Really, you go in there and you're shaking in your boots because you don't know what you're going to be dealing with, which I was like my first few times. Like, man, I didn't know what to think my first time evicting somebody because they would come back and say, well, I'm going to go. And, I didn't know my rules that well. I thought I had everything right, but once you get the confidence, it's all about confidence. It's like that with everything.
Okay. But anyway, we will be covering some other questions related to the screening. So you should not be facing that kind of situation if you are pre-screening prior to even allowing the tenant or family to even occupy your property, right? So
absolutely. We talked about this. I talked about this with a friend of mine the other day where, when you're dealing with a term or a bad tenant, a lot of time you got to look yourself in the mirror. Like, it's not anybody else's fault besides
yours.
You. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to bite that bullet. It's hard to really face that fact, but it's true.
Yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you are not going to screen properly the tenants, right? But we'll be covering that later on. So let's say, can you get that damage deposit back after evicting the tenant, the bad guy? Yeah.
So in New Brunswick, we have what's called a damage deposit. Now we are not to hold it in-house, so it's held by the province of New Brunswick or the tenancy tribunal. So they actually hold the damage deposit during the tenancy. Okay. So if we'll go back to that same scenario where you send out your notice to vacate, and after the 20 or so days, they're gone, and they take their stuff, and you're left with, some dirty, old garbage and whatnot. You clean it back up again, and you have to within 7 days send in a report to the tenancy tribunal to apply to get that money back. So you're just required to show how much they owed you. If you're also claiming some damages within your unit, you take photos and show those damages, and then you send an estimate into what those costs were going to be to get you to clean up your place. Okay. And then from there, the tenancy tribunal will either award your money. The tenant could appeal if they want to, and if they do, they have to prove that maybe they paid you or something like that. Okay. so they can appeal. So that can sometimes drag on. I would say a good rule of thumb is to, if you're waiting on that damage deposit, then you may be waiting upwards to 60 to 80 days. So it can take a little while sometimes. Even if it's a clean slate and it's a no-brainer, like they didn't pay $1,000, they don't appeal. By the time they actually process that paperwork, it typically can be, I would say 45 days or so.
Okay, so that is the damage deposit, right? Yep. What about the rental? What if, for example, they didn't pay you and you evicted them with some period of the time? There's outstanding amount, right? You can utilize it from the damage deposit, right? Or... That's
right. You can utilize it for the damage deposit for lost rent and also for any damage to your unit. The only thing is that if that damage deposit is $1,000, which that's the max you're allowed to charge at New Brunswick is equal to the rent. That's the most you're going to get. So if you lost $1,000 in rent plus you lost $1,000 in damages, let's say, you're going to be up to $1,000 because that's all you're going to get. Now, small claims court, stuff like that is always a possibility, but you might as well forget about it. And the main reason why is because most of the type of tenants that you're going to get that are going to do that type of thing to you, in my mind anyway, are ones that you're not going to be able to get. They're not sitting on a $50,000 boat you're going to be able to seize. Okay, you can't draw. Wouldn't that be nice? You can't draw blood from a stone. So you might as well just, as I recommend to all of our clients, you lick your wounds, you call it a day, and you go in there and you get it cleaned up as quickly as possible so you can get a new tenant in as quickly as possible and minimize your lost rent.
Okay, so about the cleaning, what if they leave some valuable assets, like furniture, everything?
Yeah. So
how you work with it?
There's an application that you would put with the tenancy tribunal for abandoned chalets, and when that happens, you would send pictures of the room showing all that, and you're supposed to do an inventory of what you have there. And the tenancy tribunal will take into consideration what they feel the value of those goods are against the money that you're owed. Okay. So if they value those, and they will tell you that you can just get rid of them if you want, you can keep them, whatever you decide to do, you can. Now that process can sometimes take upwards to maybe a couple of weeks, I would allow.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's not crazy amount of time. If there's a lot of stuff, sometimes it takes a little bit longer because they will contact the tenant and tell them to go and get the stuff. Well, they'll tell them to contact your landlord and to make arrangements to go get it. And after they try a few times, if they're unsuccessful, then they'll give us the green light to say to get rid of it. So
let's talk about the worst case scenario guys, hoarders and everything, right?
Yeah, I just had one last night.
Don't tell me. Okay. Yeah. So are you putting them into the special storage unit, and then how does it work in New Brunswick?
No. My special storage unit is the landfill.
Got it. Perfect. Okay.
We take it right into a trailer, unless it's something that we feel is worth, hanging on to, which I have yet to find. Like nobody's leaving flat screen TVs and leather furniture behind. Okay. I'll tell you. Actually, this is just the first time I know a tenant's good and gone for good if the TV's gone. And the bed. If the bed and the TV are gone, they ain't coming back. Those are always.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You go in, is the TV missing? Yep, they're gone. It's that's almost a great that goes for anybody. I think. The first thing somebody's moving, the first thing they're taking is something to sleep on and their TV.
Got it.
That's it.
Good to know. TV.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's again in New Brunswick. It is still a fairly easy process when there's stuff left behind.
Perfect.
A lot of paperwork. It's just paperwork and photos. A little bit of time consuming, let's say, which can frustrate people. But once you're used to it, and once you've done it a few times, it's not bad.
Okay. So what kind of mistakes you should avoid while evicting the tenants?
I would say that depending on your situation, it's best just to just send the notice. Like, don't try to, like, if they tell you on the second, oh, I can pay you on the 10th, then don't not send a notice, because all you're doing is they don't pay you on the 10th, and now all of a sudden you're 10 days behind, or you're 9 days behind. Okay. And that's a common thing, because we're all somewhat compassionate people. Nobody really wants to. I don't ever want to evict people. Sometimes I do, depending on the tenant. But I mean, the ones that don't pay us, all we really want is our money. I think all landlords can agree with that. At the end of the day, really all we want is just to pay us money. And so that's the last thing we really want to do. So when they tell you, you know what, I'm going to get a check on the 10th. You're like, okay, sure. I'll wait till the 10th. But then the 10th comes around. Oh, well, that money fell through. And I mean, we've all heard it before, and all of a sudden you're down and now, oh, it's coming in on the 20th for sure though. And it doesn't. So now all of a sudden you've wasted 20 days of the month. You haven't sent a notice because they told you and you believe them. And, now all of a sudden, you won't get them out till the following month, because by the time that 15 days runs up. So that's kind of like one of what I would call something you definitely want to avoid. Like, if you just get your notices out, and even if they say they're going to pay you on the 10th, it's no problem, because that notice, as I stated earlier, will be null and void once you collect that money. Yeah.
Okay. So are you collecting money by check or direct deposit, or what?
Like, how do I collect our rent money? Yeah. So we collect it. We don't take as many checks anymore. We do take a few, but we started doing debit, and we'll even take Visa now, Visa, MasterCard. Okay. We will e-transfers are one of the most common, and then also second probably to that would be pre-authorized payments.
Okay, gotcha.
And we actually, I know, like, everybody's trying to come up with new ways maybe to get rent on time and whatnot. So we actually just signed and started offering air miles for tenants to pay rent early. So if you're a tenant of Canada Homes and you pay your rent early, you're going to get 1 air mile for every $100 in rent you have. Okay. And I know air miles aren't they're really big in Atlantic Canada. I don't know what it's like the rest of the country, but air miles collectors are quite big out here.
Just to give you an idea, I've been having air miles for 20 years, never, collecting when they ask, but honestly, I never withdrawn any points or anything. I don't know how much even I have, but
wow.
Sure, air miles.
You should keep an eye on that. Yeah.
Definitely. Or Turkey or something different, right? So
that's how I travel to a lot of my real estate conferences. So I don't, I save some cash and use some miles.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah. I'll check my.
Sure. You can fly to New Brunswick.
Sure. Do you have a Polish beer there?
Oh, I'm sure we could probably find one.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's cover some about the tenant screening, because what we have we've been covering is evictions, right? However, if you are properly pre-screening tenants, then you will have a higher chances to avoid those kind of unfortunate situations, right? Yeah. So what kind of the best way to avoid dealing with those evictions?
So I would say that the biggest thing that helped me in the last 3 to 4 years, as far as avoiding those eviction problems, would be to do credit checks. Credit checks was something I never did before. And I started doing it a couple of years ago. We started working with a company called Neighborly, which is, you may be familiar with. They're out of Ontario, and they're doing great things. Anybody who hasn't checked them out before definitely should.
Very nice people, yep.
Yeah, they are, yeah. And so once I started to see the stuff on credit checks, like, not paying their phone bill or huge, like, car payment bills, that was one of the biggest things that helped us, because, we would, get it on our proof of income and knowing how much, with their pay stubs and knowing how much they're making, we would then take that and go, okay, the rent is, so much, and the rent's going to be 30% of your income or whatever. Mm-hmm. But what we didn't know was car payments, credit card payments, if they're students, student loan payments, and all those things are now coming up on the credit check. I think us as landlords really either know or need to look ourselves in the mirror and realize we're generally always going to be the last to be paid. Even though we're the ones putting a roof over people's heads, I think, the car payment's going to be, make sure it's going to be paid because it's, it may be coming right out of their bank regardless. I think the landlord is always somebody that gets looked at. And I wouldn't say by 100% of the tenants, but I would say probably 60, that, I know the rules, so I don't have to pay him on the first technically because, he's going to give me a notice to vacate. And, if I'm in New Brunswick, I've got 15 days to get that money to him, or if I'm in Ontario, I've got 6 months or something like that. Or maybe I don't have to worry about it at all. I can just stay here forever. But that type of thing was actually a big help to us. So now if we see, if you're making $2,000 a month, but you've got $1,200 a month in bills, I'm not renting to you. No thanks. Because I know I'm not getting my money. And they can come up with every kind of thing, but this and but that. No. We don't care. So that has been a big, big plus. The other thing is actually us getting proof of income. It was something that we would verify employment, but we would never maybe prove how much money they made. So that's also helped us. So in our earlier days, we had a pretty basic application, name, references, employment information. Probably 3 years ago is when we really started to think, okay, maybe we need to make some changes in how we do applications. So we were considering doing, that was when we were thinking about doing credit checks. And I saw Neighborly at the Toronto Real Estate Forum, and they were kind of showing all the different things they were doing with the proof of income, and I didn't have to do anything, which is nice. So if you're a landlord out there and you're working full time, or if you're a property manager like myself, and you've got more fish to fry than maybe just a 6-unit building, time is very key, and the less amount of time that you have to do this, the better. So to get a report like a Neighborly, or there is a few other companies out there doing similar work, that you can just sit and you go through the 8-page application that has all the information there, really allows you to make an informed decision. Whereas before, you're going off of what a landlord says. Maybe you catch a landlord that doesn't want the tenant anymore and will do whatever he has to do to get rid of them. What's the easiest thing to do? Tell the person they're great. Right? And I mean, it's a dirty game out there. I don't think anybody can really say that they wouldn't expect that. I do. I really, I sometimes believe what they say, but, you can't always. I started, there's some Facebook groups out there for locally in New Brunswick that have like a closed group of property managers and landlords, and there's like a blacklist out there for people. So we all share different names that we've had bad luck with, and it's kind of a place that you can go to kind of scroll through the names, But it's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were covering some topic about the screening. Can you add any other tricks or processes?
Yeah, like we would do Facebook scan. So we would run the names through Facebook. Now that one's tricky just because you got to make sure that you're looking at the right person, because obviously there's different names. People with maybe the same name, but like in a small city like Saint John, for instance, it's fairly easy to punch a name in and kind of scroll through to see, if there's a bunch of pictures there with maybe violence and drugs and stuff like that, maybe that's not really the place you want to be going. So, because people are silly, like they don't really think of stuff like that. They'll post anything. And, we have to be, as landlords and property managers, have to be smart enough to go looking for it. So those are kind of the things that I've done. Also with like just getting back to the neighborly application,
Mm-hmm.
my honest opinion that anybody who is willing to spend the time to fill out that app, anybody who's ever actually seen it, it's quite thorough. There's a lot of questions. It gets very specific. But if you want to live there, you're going to take that time.
Yep.
And I've weeded out bad people just by sending them the application, because I know there's no goddamn way they're going to go and actually take that time to fill out that application. And if they do, it's going to come back so bad, it's going to be a no-brainer. Yeah.
Okay. You're not charging upfront fee for the filling up the application, right?
So Neighborly currently is free right now.
Yep.
So that has been good. Back when I first started, it wasn't. There was an application charge for it. When we first started, we were just sucking it up and paying out of pocket for it, and just kind of being a part of what we would charge for a vacancy fill. But since once we started to do it more, we were then going to charge an application charge. We don't have a strong enough market per se that you can really get away with it too easy. Like some of the lower end stuff, you really gotta suck it up kind of thing. But like if you've got a really nice unit, you got a few applicants, you can get away with charging an application fee. We always told people that if you were approved, we would give you the money back. I thought that was fair.
Yeah.
Yep. So in a crazy market, maybe like I don't know, Toronto, where units are, when you get something, you might have 20 people show up to view a place, right? We don't have that type of problem. So, we try to be as fair as we can.
Yeah, I remember those times, not now, right? Where people were filling up the, interview style kind of letters, right?
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
But, that happens when the market is hot, but that fluctuates based on the situation in the market, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so within the period of the time, criminal records, are you checking them or?
We are not. So it is something we could do. We haven't started to. I haven't ran across a situation where I felt we needed to.
Okay.
We just haven't, we're getting into the SIN number, we're getting it, and doing the credit checks, and we're, proof of identity, stuff like that. We still do our Facebook checks and stuff like that, which would kind of gives us a little bit of a background. But no, the criminal checks we haven't jumped into.
So you've been working on that business for how many years?
We're coming into our 7th year, I believe.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Pardon me?
Time flies.
Oh my gosh. Seeing where we were and where we are today, we just moved into a new office back in December of 2017. Our business is probably doubled like year over year for probably the last 3. So, our name is out there. We're doing a lot of different things. We're jumping into a couple different things. We're doing some vacant home care for people. We actually started just a straight eviction service. So if you're a landlord or just a private owner, maybe you got a little 4-unit building, or maybe it's even smaller than that, and you don't know the rules, but you don't want to hire a property manager because you can't afford it, we'll come and do an eviction for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
You need big guys like me?
Well,
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Okay, so you've been working for 6 years. Have you changed, modified your screening process, and what the changes were?
Sure. I think it's something that we're always kind of tweaking. The first few years in, it was pretty basic, like the one sheet. You'd call references, you'd go off your gut. We try to avoid that as much as possible now because there's a lot more people in the office now. So it's not just one guy doing everything. So the process went from that to then starting into looking into the Facebook, background profile, stuff like that. And then into the neighborly applications that we use today. And even with the neighborlies, still doing our reference checks and still doing, even though they'll run them through Facebook as well, we still do as well, just to look at the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah. So the screening process itself is certainly changed, but I always find that it's always ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the tricks which our tenants are doing is providing the previous tenant phone number, and that phone number is number of their friend. Have you ever experienced that?
I'm sure I have, and maybe didn't even know it. You know, the kind of the most surprising thing I had ever had come across, where we rented to this was back before we were getting proof of identity and stuff like that. We rented to somebody that lived with us for probably 8 months, moved out. We had somebody looking for them, and it turns out what we had wasn't even their real name. Yeah.
Okay.
So they luckily, knock on wood, it didn't hurt us any. We didn't have any damage to the property. It wasn't, but yeah. So actually, once that happened, it kind of opened our eyes to what we, again, a change. I think that's something that always, whether it doesn't matter what property manager you are or landlord, you have something happen to you that you haven't had happen before, and it kind of triggers you to never have it happen again. So that's kind of something that we, looked at ourselves and said, "Poof, we can't take any chances."
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Okay, so overall, how do you see what kind of reactions you have at given or take from the potential tenants? Do they accept the screening process? What the reaction is?
It's some are really good, and it's all about how we pitch it to them too. So a lot of folks, will look at it and go, "God, this is awful personal." I'm like, yeah, but you're going to live in a building that I've done the exact same thing to everybody that lives there, and I'm doing it so that when you move in, that it's going to be a comfortable experience for you. We don't, willingly put anybody into situations that they are uncomfortable with or end up uncomfortable with on purpose. Our goal is to move everybody in and have them stay forever. And it's unrealistic to think that, of course, but that's always our goal. And so certainly people have kicked up a fuss before, but once they realize, well, that makes a lot of sense, then they're okay. You have some others that they do it, but they're not happy about it, but they do it because, they want to live there. And then you get others that are like, no, I'm not doing this.
Cool.
And they'll move on to somebody else. And look, there's lots of other people in the city and this province and across Canada that have a far simpler clearance process. Who are you? Some of them don't even do a clearance process at all. What, you got money? Great. There's the keys, right?
So that comes another question, to be honest with you. How are you dealing with avoiding to have a grow-ups?
I haven't had to deal with any grow-ups. I've had to deal with maybe you evict somebody and then you walk in and I'm trying to remember one off the top of my head, but one would be they had like an armoire and they had like a bunch of like holes drilled in it and lamps and whatnot. I mean, that's very small scale stuff. But that's about it for me. Honestly, we haven't ran across too many grow-ups. We keep a close eye on our power bills and stuff like that, because some of the units have power included, so in the heat included. So keeping an eye on those for spikes in the power during times that they shouldn't be will tell the story.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the tricks which we've been using is more like you right to, visit the property on a regular basis.
Yeah.
3 months, right? So
yep.
In order to create a grow up or start operations, it takes, a few months, up to 3 months. So,
Yeah, we started a new property check program about 2 months ago. We started using a company called Happy Inspector. So it's an app that you can get on your phones. And all of our properties are uploaded from our Buildium property management software. And we can go in and we do outside inspections. And if there's things that we see that we believe are something that we should look at right away, then we'll do an interior inspection. We try not to go and, do interior inspections unless we feel they're needed. If there's something going on that maybe you're getting some noise complaints, stuff like that, then okay, maybe now it's time to go over there. But if tenants are living their life, they're paying their rent on time, if it's a house and the lawn's being cut and everything looks great, I try not to, and maybe there is bad stuff going on in it, but at the same time, they're doing a great job of hiding it. I guess that's one of those things, but I don't want to make our tenants feel like there's constantly somebody watching them. You've got to make sure people are feeling comfortable, and especially in our market, because look, they can pick up and move. There's apartments available all the time. The vacancy rates are coming down considerably, but they will. If you make them feel uncomfortable and you're in the way you proceed, I guess you're going to lose your tenant.
Got it. Okay.
There's a happy medium there.
Putting the clause right in the contract saying that you have a right to inspect the property, 24 hours prior. 24
hours notice. Yep.
And every three months you have a right to do it. They're not going to do that kind of crazy operations, right?
Yeah, we're always around doing maintenance calls and stuff like that. So you get around, you get a good chance. And all of our, the key to is, if you're another property manager or if you're a private landlord and you've got some guys working for you, make sure your guys are trained to let you know if they start to see some things going on.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, because those are the guys that are there firsthand, right?
Okay. So do you feel the changes you have made within your period of the, screening process, right, impacted your campaign more positively way or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is, I feel we are getting a better quality tenant. I think we feel much better about putting tenants in places now, whereas before, like, you may put somebody in, you approve them, but sometimes maybe it's just not sitting right with you. You weren't quite sure, but you almost feel like you're taking a chance. You're playing like Russian roulette here. Now, I think we just feel much, much better about it.
I see.
Yeah, and I think the tenants feel a lot better about moving into a place too, knowing the fact that that they've gone through the gauntlet, if you will, and knowing that everybody else did too. If I'm a tenant and I'm showing up in a place and a guy's ready to give me the keys just after I gave him money, just because I had the money in hand, what does that say for the rest of the people that are going to be living around me?
Okay. Perfect. So there's some questions which cross my mind because I focus a lot about automating the businesses the best way possible. And I'm always curious about the marketing aspect of running the operations, right? So the question number one, how do you market in order to have a quality tenants, right? What kind of marketing strategies are you utilizing within your operations?
Yep. So ours is pretty basic. Like in New Brunswick or Atlantic Canada, Kijiji is like king.
Really?
So yeah, it really is. So you have to, if you want to fill vacancies, you have to use that. Have to, which is a killer because it's expensive. It probably costs us, I think, $700 a month to maintain the package that we have. Okay. But other than that, we do use our website. We have a nice website. And it's a nice thing that we can refer people to from Kijiji, so they want to look at just our listings. Yeah. If they want to look at just to see what we have, you can fill out a neighborly application right from our website.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a nice factor. And then social media, of course, we'll focus on some maybe newer renos, stuff like that that's going on. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is mediocre around here. Not many people are on Twitter. It's not really a big thing around here, but the Kijiji, Facebook, Instagram, and your website are the main ones for us around here. Okay. PadMapper, you're familiar with PadMapper?
PadMapper, yes.
Yeah, PadMapper. I wish it was bigger around here, but because it's actually a cool little gadget. I picked up on that from some one of the real estate shows. But those are the main ones around here.
I see. And I can congratulate about your social media presence, because you rock and roll in your entire team. Your friend and your partner, I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Jason Fillmore.
Jason, right?
Yes.
He's doing amazing videos, and because of that, I just have a look and I see the presentation. So congratulations about that.
Yeah, like him and I, when it comes to property management, it's something that we've, Jason's got a little more experience than I do. He's been doing it for close to 15 years. It's fun to do some different things though. Mm-hmm. Like to take in with the technology that's out there for us, to be able to go and just start a podcast. That's in our podcast is about renting in New Brunswick. And we bring in different people and talk about different things, aspects to renting in New Brunswick. But for whether it's us or anybody else out there, that the technology is out there for you to have fun with real estate. Even the bad times, like we talk about this is the bad times sometimes. Like, evictions is not a lot of fun for a lot of people, but we can all learn from each other. So hopefully somebody's out there listening that has had some trouble. Maybe they own some property out here and they've been having some trouble, and they can take from what I've said and it helps them in some manner. Because for us, educating ourselves, educating other people, and portraying ourselves as the professionals that we are is important for us.
Perfect. So you mentioned your website. What's the address?
The website is CHFR.ca. So that just stands for Canada Homes for Rent. And unfortunately, like everybody, I'm sorry, we are only in New Brunswick right now. Give me some time. I will be across the board. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get there.
Okay. Then another question is, do you have, and this is out of the script and whatever there is, because sure. Yep. I like interacting with people and sometimes confuse or get ball rolling different way. Yep. Are you automating your business? How you automate it? How you make sure that you have a proper screening, follow-up applications and everything? Do you do Excel sheet, or you do different, more sophisticated applications? Yep.
Sorry, I just broke up there a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So just as far as the application process goes, all of our agents have their cell phones on them, so they're able to send applications right to a tenant right then and there. Mm-hmm. Once the application comes in, we have 5 office staff that are in here that handle all the aspects of the leasing aspects, of the money aspects, of the dealing with the rentals board, dealing with owners. So all of us as a group sort of work very closely together into ensuring the fact that things are done pretty quickly. Once a report gets back, we're able to approve a tenant and get things rolling and get a deposit usually within 24 hours.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. But not much automation really. We're starting to use like third-party companies like Neighborly, but just to save ourselves like the calling and the waiting and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But as far as the paperwork aspect of it, the approval processes and all that sort of stuff, we've got the manpower here to take care of it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, I have noticed that been working with quite a lot of very good automation specialists in entire Canada, especially about the real estate side, right? So,
yep.
Automation is the king, right? Auto posting for KDG ads, no integration, no human interaction, all the lead generation, all the leads, fill ups information, screening everything, Infusionsoft, other applications. So I'm just always curious how other people successful like yourself are doing, yep. Right? So
yeah, so I've dabbled a little bit into a HubSpot. So mm-hmm. It's something that I haven't really focused a lot on, honestly. Sure. But it's something that I feel that in the future, certainly something that will be key for us.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're also looking at doing like a tenant Facebook page to keep tenants up to date on the goings on with Canada Homes and what's going on, maybe different notices that are going out, stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, entire society, right? Doesn't matter if there are tenants or buyers or whoever, is saturated with so much information. So the lifespan of the attention is so short.
Oh man, it's crazy. Yeah, that's why we're going. That's why we're always trying to come up with new things.
Yeah,
you'll get boring quickly.
Very, very boring, right? Like if you notice, our interaction will be available for on different media or different sources as long as possible. Yep. We provide that information for free. Yep. I would very much thank you for spending an entire hour with us and sharing your experience. I'm so thankful for it. Jeff, do you have anything to add? It maybe contact information. What kind of final thoughts you would like to share with people? Sure. Which they will be hearing or seeing the presentation?
Yeah, so I gave you my website, which is CHFR.ca. You can see a little bit about our operations and a little bit about us and how we operate and how we portray ourselves. You can reach me directly at Jeff, so it's JEFF, at CanadaHomesForRent.ca. Mm-hmm. And you can also reach me by 506-216-3113. That's the office line. And my cell phone number is 506-977-3113. So that's the website up there now. And all of our contact information is there. We started a YouTube channel, which we'll upload our podcasts. We'll hopefully we can get a copy of this one and we'll upload that one up there as well. And also we'll do different viewings of different properties. We've got some new stuff that's coming up. So we'll do some different videos. We got a little promotional video that we're working on right now to kind of show you Canada Homes and what we are and what we do. So that's kind of our thing. We'll keep working hard at it.
So Jeff, I would like to thank you very much for your precious time. I see a lot of appreciation from my side, from the side of the viewers, and what we are going to do is very simply make as much as possible to share whatever you provided to as many people Canada-wide. Thank you very much, Jeff, and looking forward to have you on another presentations very soon, and then we will see what we can come up with it, right? And I would love to have a discussion about investing in multiple units in your area, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, no, this was great. And I thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I always get excited anytime I get an opportunity to discuss New Brunswick with the rest of Canada. Sometimes it can be forgotten. But again, thank you very much and certainly look forward to it. Any questions at all, please send them along. I'd be happy to help.
Okay. So Jeff, looking forward to working with you on a regular basis with your team, and whoever has any questions, guys, our dedication is very, very simple. If you do not ask the question, you will not get an answer. Simple as that, okay?
So easy.
So easy, but you have to have enough and be enough encouraged to ask the questions, because people, they are willing to share their knowledge and experience, because that is the passion. That's what makes Canadian real estate investor per se, the most appealing kind of industry. Reason being is because it's based on the networking. If you screw somebody, everybody will know. If you help somebody, everybody will know. If you work with somebody and you're making money together, you interacting, exchanging information, everybody will know. Simple as that. So that's my final thoughts. And Jeff, thank you very much. Say hello to the entire team.
I will.
Appreciate.
Thank you. Bye-bye.